Of the Township Board to order. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Meltzer.
Trustee Wade?
Here.
Trustee Matuzak?
Here.
Trustee Kress?
Present.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Here.
Trustee King?
Here.
Treasurer Aiello?
Present.
Clerk Meltzer here.
Okay. That brings us to approval of the agenda. I'd like to recognize Treasurer Aiello.
I would ask if we could move item number 8 up to number 2 in respect for my deputy.
We can move her to the top if you want.
Okay.
Ms. Meltzer?
2 is the top, really. We can, also, so we're doing approval of the agenda, correct? Not the consent agenda at this point?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Let me, I'll have a question on the consent. Okay.
So approval of the agenda with moving number 8 to item 2A.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fine.
Okay.
I second that.
Without objection?
Wait.
Oh, excuse
The
me.
attorney has a question.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, at this point, you want me to state that correction to, you want the correction?
no, that's under item number 1, the consent agenda.
Okay, fine, okay.
Right now, it's approval of the agenda. We have a motion and
Support.
second.
All right, who made the
So-
motion? Was that you, Mr. Aiello?
Motion by Treasurer Aiello, supported by Trustee Kress.
Okay.
A roll call, please.
Treasurer Aiello.
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. And I'll separate out 1A, approval of the minutes. If we can have a motion on the other 2 items, B and C.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Support.
motion by Treasurer Aiello, supported by Trustee Matuzak. Discussion? A roll call, please.
Was that the one Jack wanted to speak to?
Yes,
Okay.
we separated out number 1A.
All right.
Okay.
Treasurer Aiello.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, on item number 1A, Ms. McGrath.
Thank you, Supervisor and Board. With regard to the transcript that was attached to the meeting minutes, we would like to correct the spelling of Clerk Kim Meltzer's name throughout. It is spelled correctly most of the time, but there are a couple instances where it's misspelled, and that obviously should be Meltzer. On page 4, last paragraph, it should read Department of Public Services Director. And on page 6, it should be the Mites and Utica drain instead of the Mites and Union Lake drain.
Okay. Any objection to those changes in the minutes? No. Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll make that motion as amended.
Motion by Treasurer Aiello,
I'll support it.
supported by Trustee Wade. A roll call, please.
Treasurer Aiello.
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, item number 2, Log Cabin Moravian Hall Roofs Bid Award. We'll get to
Didn't we amend that? We amended that, so.
2A.
Oh, it's 2A, okay.
We made it 2A.
Gotcha.
Number 8 to 2A.
All right, well, right, so isn't this just the treasurer's report?
Item number 2, the
Oh,
log cabin.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, dear members of the board, the Department of Public Services is seeking approval for the bid award for the roofs of Log Cabin and Moravian Hall. This project was included in the current budget with a budgeted cost of $100,000 to be funded from the Capital Outlay Fund. The project was put out to bid and bids were received and tabulated on June 4th, 2025. A total of 5 bids were submitted, with the amounts ranging from $56,025 to $182,300, as detailed in the attached bid tabulation. After evaluating all the bids, we recommend awarding the contract to the lowest bidder, Kanga Roof. Thank you for considering our request, and I'm happy to provide any further information or clarification you may need. I look forward to your favorable response. Sincerely, Brett Middlestad, Assistant Project Manager in the Department of Public Services.
Floor is open for discussion. Trustee Matusek.
Just, these bids are pretty wide ranging, from 182 to the one we picked. I would like some assurances that the low bid was a quality bid, given this range.
We've worked with Kanga Roof before, as well as the building department is familiar with them, and we both recommend that they're acceptable.
Okay.
Further discussion. Trustee Wade.
Yes. Was the material comparable, or, that one is triple the price of the other one? It just,
It's a lot.
yeah,
So the RFP included, because we were looking for cedar shake looking, basically asphalt tiles. It might be the time of year and how busy the different contractors are. We don't really sit down and say to the highest guy, why are you so high? But we did, if you look, it's a huge range. Our second lowest bidder is only 9,000, so this low bidder isn't way off compared to the second lower. It's more like that highest bidder is way off compared to the others.
okay.
Are we ready for a motion?
I make a motion to accept the bid for the Historic Village roofing.
I'll second that.
For the
Going to
bid
the-
Kanga Roof.
Kanga Roof,
Okay.
in the amount of $56,025.
Okay. Moved by Trustee Matusek, supported by
Kress.
Trustee Kress. Roll call, please.
Trustee Matusek.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Trustee Wade.
Yes.
Supervisor Gillaham.
Yes.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Treasurer Aiello.
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, that brings us to item number 2A, which was previously listed as item number 8, the quarterly treasurer's report submitted by Treasurer Aiello.
Go ahead. Generally, you want me to read this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Generally, I'm just used to a different, no problem. Okay. During the fourth and final quarter of the 2024-25 fiscal year, January 1st through March 31st, the 3-month Treasury yield averaged 4.21%. It dropped from 4.27% in December to 4.21% in January and has remained relatively level, rising to 4.22% in February and dropping back down to 4.2% in March. Township investments, non-checking and saving accounts rates of return also declined but exceeded the 3-month Treasury, averaging 4.29% and falling from 4.35% in January to 4.22% in March. With uncertainty in the economy, our office will now be moving to lock in mid to long-term investments to both lock in rates while maintaining flexibility to both accommodate township payments and to take advantage of changes in the rates. Investments as of March 31st. Bank deposits are spread across 7 institutions in the amount of $83,610,561, including collected but undistributed property taxes. These accounts, including checking, savings, and money market demand accounts, they generate earning credits which offset bank service fees and/or are interest-bearing. We are invested in 4 pooled funds, one organized under the Surplus Funds Investment Pool Act of 1982, Public Act 367, and another under the Urban Cooperation Act of 1967, Public Act 7. The average rate of return at the end of December was 4.35%, with funds, including tax, totaling $43,860,124, including the taxes. At the conclusion of the fourth quarter, the township held 3 certificates of deposit that are expected to yield $133,693.75 upon maturity. They have an average yield of 4.62%. The township was also holding 2 treasury bills totaling $1,990,873.82 that are expected to yield $67,126.18. Our fixed income investment portfolio overseen by Robinson Capital Management had a market value of $13,727,756.82 that was earning a 4.03% average rate of return at the end of March. And that concludes the report.
Questions from the board? Trustee Kress.
What is the special purpose liquid accounts?
So for special purpose liquid accounts, we would be referring to things like, say, if there's funding that belongs to the Economic Development Corporation, they have 2 CDs that are ran by the Economic Development Corporation. There's also the special assessments banking account, where any revenue that comes in or money that's being paid to us for the special assessments gets deposited in.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head what your annual budget is for your department?
For my department, I would have to look at it. I want to say around
635?
600,000 around. Yeah, below 650, I want to say.
You said 635 approximately?
I think that's relatively safe. I could
Okay.
pull the figure for you and report back if you'd like, though.
Okay. And covered in that budget is what? Salaries and that sort of thing?
The biggest source of spending that we have is usually the staffing costs, right? So you have salaries, you've got the benefits and stuff, you've got, that's the majority of that, what you're looking at there. But you
The
also
mailing
do
cost.
have costs for the, you have cost for the mailing, which is the postage that goes for our tax bills. We send out about 33,000 some tax bills twice a year, and so the postage for that that's the thing that changes the most, the postage going up from season to season usually.
Okay. Now, at the end of the year, if you've got a surplus, like you didn't use all $635,000, what happens to those monies? Do they carry over, or do you go back to the general fund, or?
I believe they put it back in the general fund.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. As a heads up as well, the tax bills will be coming out during the first 2 weeks of July, so.
All right, thank you.
And for the record, speaking on behalf of the treasurer is Deputy Treasurer Carolyn Folk.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep.
We usually do name and address for the record, so I
Oh,
just
my
figured I'd
apologies.
introduce you.
Thank you.
Paul?
Trustee Wade. And then
This might be a
Clerk
redundant
Meltzer.
question, but when we collect the money for the schools, do we invest that at all, or is it just we have it for such a short period that we don't?
That's an excellent question. So when we take in money from the taxes, whether it's for the schools or for the community college or for the intermediate school district or the township, what we end up doing is we deposit it in a bank account that sweeps overnight to essentially what's like a pooled fund. We call it it's the Comerica J Fund. And that has a interest rate that, accumulates over time. We pay out for, like, say, the schools, any money that we collect in, we're paying out every 2 weeks, essentially. But at the end of the year, we square up and look, okay, how much money have we brought in as earnings interest on this account? And then we divide it up proportionally on behalf of whoever we collected on. So we do send that interest to the schools, based on the proportion of taxes we collected on their behalf.
Now, a hypothetical, say you took that money, you invested it, and the market crashed, and the value of that money went down. Would they eat that cost, or would we have to?
So one of the things too, so 2 separate things a little bit there. So when we invest it, we're putting it in accounts that are safe, that are approved by Public Act 20.
Okay.
there is the possibility that if there's no investment earnings to be had, like what we saw during COVID when,
Right.
bank rates fell and stuff, at that point, there's really not, that they're not necessarily losing stuff, but they do also carry the share of, say, the earnings credits or the banking fees that come with it. We also spread that proportionally. Usually, though, the investment earnings eat that up.
Okay.
Clerk Meltzer?
Thank you. Carolyn, thank you for this report, and Treasurer Aiello, I appreciate the details that talk about the percentages, and these look like low numbers, but can you, Carolyn, explain to the public and to the board why these numbers may not be as high as what people might see in the private sector? If you're making investments and 4.21% doesn't seem like a high yield or return, but there's restrictions. Can you speak to that and explain to the public why this is actually a good rate, given what parameters the township has to abide by?
Absolutely. So the big thing that comes in usually with safety, when you look at safety, that comes with a reduced sort of rate of return that you might be looking at. Usually stuff that's going to have a higher rate of return is very risky. Now, what we can invest in at the township is dictated by law and by our investment policy. But when we look at these plans, our primary thing is safety, then liquidity, then yield, because we want to make sure that that we're able to secure the public's funds and the public's trust. B, we want to make sure that we're able to pay for what we have to pay the township's bills when we need it. And then it's a very nice to have is when we can get that investment yield on there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think from our perspective is we can't invest in risky decision-making. So ours is a more safe, less risky, and as a result of that, it's a lower return. But again, like you said, we're required by law and public acts to abide by a stricter standard, which doesn't allow us to make, 20% or here or there, those fluctuations that you see in the market.
That's right.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. Dolan?
Again, just so the public's accurately informed, to be very clear, for example, we cannot invest in individual stocks. We cannot invest in money market funds. We cannot invest in ETFs. A lot of the investments that are permitted and done, for example, in pension accounts or in people's IRAs and their own savings, we are not by law under Public Act 20 allowed to do that. We invest basically in secured certificates of deposit and similar devices.
Just a correction on that, however, money market accounts are permissible, but they have to be money market accounts based upon agency bonds, CDs, things that are Public Act 20 of 1943 compliant, right?
That's right. So it's got to be the consistency of what's in that body of the investment has to be safe and PA 20 compliant.
Yeah. And so to the issue of the schools, there was a time when interest rates were very, very low. And so usually what we've done is we've switched to bank accounts that the bank can earn money on our money, but it will offset our fees. But when interest rates are higher, we switch to those accounts that are actually interest earnings because we don't want to leave money on the table. And then when those dollars are distributed to all of the schools, the community college, the county millage rate, all of the different taxing authorities, they then get their proportional share of the earnings based upon what was in the account and how long it was in there, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Trustee Kress.
I don't know, you probably have to get back to me, but out of your budget last year, do you know how much was returned to the general fund at the end of the?
I can find out for you. Yeah, because I want to say what will happen too is I usually, as part of the budget process, we go through and we'll also amend our budget. So if we're not going to if we don't think that we're going to spend the full amount, I'll reduce it down, typically speaking. So let me follow up with you on that. So I'll make a note.
All right. And a comparison, like spending last year as opposed to spending this year, is that something I get from you or from Mary Hein?
Well, it would be in the budget book.
Okay.
And so this discussion is based upon the treasurer's report. Part of Public Act 20 is that you have to report quarterly to the board on the places where our township money is held.
Okay.
Budget questions is more
Yeah,
part of the budget process,
follow up
but
there.
it's definitely in the budget book as a comparison from last year to this year.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be
Mr.
happy to get those
Supervisor?
figures to you.
Okay.
Also, just to the point, Trustee Kress, it is in your budget, and it actually shows line up, and it'll show you the previous year, what the budget was, and how much maybe wasn't spent from that in the next year. So if you pull out your budget, it'll have all that information right at your fingertips. So you can, and I don't remember when we approved the budget, but it wasn't that long ago.
In March.
So, yeah, so, yeah, because
Early
that's our
March.
fiscal year, and so.
When is the end of the fiscal year?
March, the end of March.
March 31st. We go April 1st to March 31st.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Motion by Clerk Meltzer, supported by Trustee Matuzek? Or Trustee, who wants it? Trustee
Doesn't matter.
Matuzek.
Give it to
A roll
Julie.
call, please.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Trustee Matuzek.
Yes.
Trustee Wade.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam.
Yes.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Treasurer Aiello.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Folk. And Mr. Aiello? Treasurer Aiello? That moves us to item number 3, Site Development Plan Approval for proposed Phase 2 development of the Clinton Hall Retail, south side of Hall Road, east of Hayes Road.
This commission has made review of the proposed site development plan and has voted to recommend that the Township Board approve the request. This action was approved by unanimous vote, and this matter was petitioned by Amori Clinton Hall Properties LLC as represented by James Butler, PEA Group. We submit this proposal for consideration and would appreciate advisement of your determination. Sincerely, George Sasson, Secretary for the Clinton Township Planning Commission.
Discussion from the board?
Pretty straightforward.
Is there somebody who can give us an overview? Just a brief.
Are the petitioners here?
My name's Scott Sieg. I'm with PEA Group. We're responsible for the plans.
Okay.
So basically, this was a site that was built in 2017, and it was developed for the future expansion that we're discussing today. All the all the services have been extended from Phase 1. This would be considered Phase 2 of the plans. So all the utility connections are readily available. So there'll be minimal disturbance to the site. It's basically a 8,000 square foot retail facility that sits just behind currently it's I don't know if you're familiar, it's a smoothie, a Taco Bell, and I believe a pizza store. And so that'll just sit in the back. Obviously, all the setbacks have been met. We're adding a bunch of landscaping for additional screening. And again, it was established back then. It's designed, the storm sewers, everything is established and set up for this future development. So there's basically minimal disturbance to the site. So it's pretty much ready to go.
Mr. Thompson, anything to add? No? Okay.
I have a question, just a real quick one.
Clerk Meltzer.
Just to the petitioner. So is this is going to go next to that vacant lot, next to the Tropical Smoothie and the Taco Bell?
It actually is going to be in the same lot. It sits in the back. It'll be actually
Oh,
behind
behind
it.
that.
It will be
Okay.
behind it, yes.
Okay, all right, good, thanks.
Okay. Further discussion? A motion?
I'll make that motion to approve.
A motion to approve?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Aiello, supported by Clerk Meltzer. Roll call, please.
Treasurer Aiello.
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Trustee Wade.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam.
Yes.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Item number 4, Joy Park parking lot improvements, work scope modifications.
Dear board members, the Joy Park parking lot improvement project is now complete, and all outstanding cleanup items have been completed by the contractor. Several work tasks that were previously completed by the contractor have remained unpaid until all the project cleanup items were found satisfactory to Clinton Township DPS staff and AEW. Several of the remaining unpaid tasks are additional work scope items that are summarized below. Addition of 96 precast concrete parking space bumper blocks, Steiner Building roof drainage and building perimeter drainage improvements, installation of a 20-foot cantilever gate in lieu of a dual 6-foot gates for the fenced in parking area, use of GeoGrid in poor soil areas in addition to the originally budgeted subgrade undercut scope item. The attached work scope modification summary gives the detailed description of each additional work scope item. The next change in construction-related costs associated with this work scope change is $41,113.20, resulting in a change in the project budget from $1,024,993.90 to $1,066,107.19. Since this is a work scope change, it is incumbent to notify the Township Board of these changes and get approval for this contract modification. Given that the scope changes meet the goals in the Township's strategic plan for improving parks and the overall intent of the Joy Park site conditions, we recommend that the Township Board approves this work scope modification. AEW will be present at the June 23rd, 2025 Township Board meeting to address any questions. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Manager with AEW.
Ms. Bednar, does this require then a corresponding budget amendment?
I believe we're still within budget.
Okay.
Is it, Scott? It does need an
We do
amendment?
need an amendment?
We are over the, okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Let me go grab my budget book so I can give you the amount. Or do you have it?
I have it. So the
Usually-
last item that's in the board packet has the originally approved budget, and it was for $1,025,000. So yes, it will require an amendment.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Of approximately $42,000.
Okay. Questions from the board?
So was that last year, was that in last year's budget or this year's?
Last year's.
That was in last, okay. All right.
Could you briefly summarize what needs to be done? So you're talking about geofabric, and now we're doing, originally there weren't going to be parking blocks, now there are going to be parking blocks.
Correct.
Let's see, parking blocks, roof drainage is going to be incorporated into the drainage system for the parking lot, or tie into the catch basins, or?
Yeah, so that work was done, meaning that it was already, it was just when we came across it during the construction.
And that wasn't originally in the blueprints, this is just an additional
Correct.
task? Okay. And then the GeoGrid for soil areas, that wasn't in the first?
No, so the intent, well, we did plan for like undercutting, and there were items in there for that, for the based on the soils reports we had, we knew there were some poor soils. So we included quantities for the undercutting to, in case we did run into it. But when we were out there and having our geotechnical investigation, in addition to the inspections that were done by DPS, we thought, in addition to the undercut, to help stabilize that ground underneath that center parking lot, was to install that GeoGrid to help have a better base before they put the paving down.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, in addition, sliding gates? A
Yes.
gate change and then some labor cost associated with these changes, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Trustee Matuzik and then trustee King.
Mr. Kress asked my question.
Okay, trustee King?
How long is this going to take approximately again?
This work's actually complete. It's just that we did not want to, we didn't pay the contractor for, 9 months? So they got everything cleaned up out there.
They were a little slow getting things cleaned up.
Understood.
Okay, further discussion? Motion?
Make a motion to improve amending the scope of work and the budget to cover this.
A corresponding
remains.
budget amendment. Okay,
I support.
Been moved by trustee Matusek, supported by trustee King. Further discussion? Oh, roll call, please.
Trustee Matusek?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Treasurer Aiello?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, item number 5, bid award Moravian Cass and Bellevue water main replacements.
Dear board members, on May 13th, 2025, the Charter Township of Clinton Clerk's Office received and processed a total of 5 bids for the above referenced project. Our office checked the tabulation of the bids processed, and the low bidder is Body Construction Company Incorporated of Port Huron, Michigan, in the bid amount total of $1,118,780. A copy of the final bid tabulation is attached. The project consists of the following water main improvements: replacement of a 68-year-old 6-inch cast iron water main on Moravian Drive from the Clinton River to Cass Avenue, relocation and replacement of 65-year-old 6-inch and 12-inch cast iron water mains current under travel lanes of Cass Avenue from Bellevue Street to Callender Street, and then also extension of an existing 8-inch water main on Bellevue Street with a connection to the Moravian Drive water main. This new water main will eliminate a dead end on Bellevue Street to improve system redundancy. Completion of this work meets the goal of replacing aging and damaged water mains in the township with adherence to their respective asset management plans, along with following best practices for system reliability, redundancy, and accessibility. As a condition of the bid requirements, prospective bidders were required to be pre-qualified in water main replacement and construction and horizontal directional drilling for water main or low-pressure sewers. Body Construction Company, Inc. provided the necessary pre-qualification information to be considered for bid award. The bid results were reviewed with the Director of Public Services and Township personnel. Based upon the bid submitted and conditions noted above, we recommend that the Moravian Cass and Bellevue water main replacement project be awarded to Body Construction Company, Inc., and located at 3741 Dove Road, Port Huron, Michigan 48060, in the amount of $1,118,780. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Manager for AEW.
Questions from the board? Trustee Matusek?
I feel compelled to ask this on behalf of our friend who lives on Moravian Drive, who comes to meetings frequently. But what is this going to do to Moravian in terms of the roadway?
Well, there'll be a temporarily, they're going to have a detour potentially on that one section. But the actual bypass lane that is going to be there is going to be fully replaced. Because the water main, given its limited right-of-way width, that portion that we're installing the water main is going to be, at least the bypass itself will be replaced with new concrete. Or, I'm sorry, new asphalt.
To asphalt. So part of Moravian ends up being replaced with this project.
That just the bypass where we're putting in the new water main.
Okay.
So,
Just want to be clear about this.
yeah, is it in front of his house by chance? The one resident that wants the road fixed?
No, so this is from
Yeah,
Cass to.
The river.
Oh, the Bellevue, it's
like
the Bellevue.
Near
Bellevue
George
or-
Park.
So it's further
Yeah, it's
north.
further north.
It's in the northern section.
Yeah, right.
Most of the work on Moravian's going to be directional drill. It's just there's that section where that road comes out and the pavement's pretty much right up near the frontage of the homes. There's really no area to to do the connections for the, by the time you do all that, it made more sense to just do the open cut and replace all the pavement in that bypass.
Okay.
And
Scott, you're referring to just south of Cass.
Correct. That's
So everyone
between
understands.
Runs parallel to Cass?
basically the area between George Park and Cass that runs parallel on that would be the west side of Moravian.
Right.
And there's, just to follow up, there's no need for a water main replacement further south?
Oh, on that portion of, I don't
Like
think.
in front of his house.
So,
Like all along Moravian,
if I can
isn't
address
there-
that
isn't there
question.
really-
And I don't think it
When
would
we look-
necessitate a pavement replacement
If I
though,
can
either.
address that
Ms. Begnaud.
question, we determine water main replacements based on our asset management for water main. We do not determine it based on road pavement conditions for another issue. That's two different funds. It's illegal to
Commingle.
cross the funds, so we look at it that way. If we can happen to do it like the lane, that's one thing, but I can't, that doesn't mean we won't be doing water main on Moravian further down in the future, but at this point, we had to focus on this area because of the necessity of asset management.
Thank you. Little tongue in cheek, but
Trustee Wade.
This may be a far-reaching question, but I have to ask it. Will this have any impact on the flooding at George Park?
No, the
Okay.
flooding at George Park is because George Park is in the floodplain
Okay.
and floodway. So whenever we get a large amount of rain, or other parts of the watershed gets a large amount of rain, it gets flooded or could flood because the water ultimately, all of the watershed's 748 square miles, and this is the downstream end at George. So all of that water has to go through George ultimately to get out to Lake St. Clair.
And one more quick thing to add, I think the biggest improvements to this is getting that water main that's currently right under the middle of Cass, at least into the green belt, that small green belt area that's on the south side of Cass. Because currently, right now, it runs almost directly under Cass.
In fact, we had a water main break on it not too long ago, which closed down Cass for the repair. And several people were, upset about that and so forth. So this will pull it out from underneath the road.
Okay. Trustee King.
Could you help educate us a little bit in the audience, just have an understanding of what's the life cycle of this work that's going to be done? So, because I think people say, oh, this is great, but, the next question or other shoe that drops is, well, how long is this going to last, and what's it going to do for us from that perspective?
So for new water main construction, typically, and Mary, you can chime in if you'd like, but our existing water mains have kind of, at least the ones that we're replacing, as you can see, they're already kind of right at their service life, or actually beyond what they were intended as cast iron, the cast iron mains. Now we have newer technologies, which we basically utilize either HDPE, like plastics, or ductile iron pipe. Those typically have a lifespan of about 75 years-ish, so, and potentially more. So the idea is that once we put these in the ground and have them done, at least in our lifetime, we're not going to have to replace or, go back and do any substantial amount of maintenance on these. And it also cuts down a lot by doing this, all these other breaks and repairs, especially near pavement, which are real costly to the water and sewer fund.
Mr. King, I tend to think it's more like 50 years. But you can see the water main replacing is 65 to, it really depends on the conditions, the type, the material type. This new material type, they're saying 75 to 80 years, but we haven't hit 75 to 80 years yet, so it's just based on lab testing. So I tend to say more like 50 to 75 years, but correct, this is a long-term investment and so forth.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Further discussion from the board? A motion?
make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll support.
Okay, moved by Clerk Meltzer, supported by Trustee King. A roll call, please.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Trustee King?
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Treasurer Aiello?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 6, Fire Department bathroom renovations.
Dear Honorable Board members, I am writing to request approval for a budget amendment for the Fire Station 2 and 3 bathroom remodel project currently in the final stage of construction. Specifically, the amendment is to cover the cost of temporary restroom rentals at both stations due to multiple schedule changes. We are asking for an additional $25,000 to cover the additional 5-week rental at Station 2 and 4 weeks at Station 3. Please reach out to me with any questions or concerns. Respectfully, John Gallagher, Fire Chief.
Chief, you want to give us a sense of what we're doing here on this project?
Yeah, this is for the additional costs for the trailer rentals, which include restroom facilities as well as showers for fire stations number 2 and number 3. As stated in the letter, and as Deputy Chief Champagne explained at the staff meeting in my absence, this is a cost was beyond the original budget due to the materials, the labor shortage with the contractor, and then we had a very robust punch list here at the end for some cosmetic repairs we had to have done, which took a couple weeks to get the personnel in to do those. So, in speaking with Chuck Champagne, our Deputy Chief, these are the numbers he came up with in regards to what was necessary for the overage for the restroom facilities.
So this requires a budget amendment as well?
Correct.
So, okay.
Supervisor?
Trustee Matusek.
Are we at the end of this project?
Fire station number 2 has been completed. In an email put out by Deputy Chief on Friday, the anticipated finish date for Station 3 is this Wednesday. They're going to have the maintenance and pumping out of the rental facility on Thursday with preparation for a Friday or Saturday pickup for the Deputy Chief's communication.
Okay. Further discussion?
I make a motion to approve as presented, including the budget amendment for $25,000.
I'll make a motion, second it.
Okay. It's been moved by Trustee Matusek, supported by Treasurer Aiello. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Matusek?
Yes.
Treasurer Aiello?
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Chief. Item number 7, request budget amendment to the demolition fund.
Dear board members, I'm requesting to relocate the $15,000 from last year's 2024-25 budget to the current budget so I can continue the bid process for demolition of the fire-damaged home at 21229 Vermander. Once approved, I will be sending this out for bid. Respectfully submitted, Barry Miller, Building Department Superintendent.
Okay, Mr. Miller's here. Questions from the board? Trustee Matusek.
Sorry.
Nope. That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. So this $15,000 was already approved in last year's budget, and we just need to move it forward to this budget?
That's correct. Basically, I've always carried a budget for demolition of homes, and actually in the 22 years I've been here, we've never had to use it. This is the first time we've ever had to use that fund. This is, if you remember, the board had approved that where that gentleman passed away, and we got that property back. DPW did a fine job to clean up the property, to put it in the state it's in. Next step is to go out for bid. We already got the asbestos test done, and we're moving forward with the bidding. Or as long as you guys approve me to spend that money, of course.
All right, but this was something that we approved before, and you're just getting around now to spending it.
You approved me and council to go forward to obtain the property, because that was a lengthy process of going through the estate that we had to force and get that all done. So we were approved to move forward with that. Now we own it, and we have it, and now we got to get rid of it.
Okay. And I hope that we will get rid of it soon. It has been an eyesore in the community for a long time.
I do want to, like I said, I can't reiterate enough how much nicer it looks since DPW went over there. It still is awful, but yes, it does need to come down. The bidding process probably take a couple weeks, and then I have to come back to this board again with the approved bid. Further discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll support.
Okay. So a motion to approve the budget amendment, moving the funds from last year's budget to this year's budget. Okay. Moved by Treasurer Aiello, supported by Trustee Wade. Roll call.
Treasurer Aiello?
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Matusek?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. That brings us to item number 9, request to increase attorney fees.
Dear Honorable Board of Trustees, we are presenting a request that our fee agreement be modified effective upon board approval. We are asking that the monthly retainer agreed to in 2022 be increased from present $27,900 to $30,000 per month. In addition, we are asking that all matters involving claims against the township, which would be litigation claims and claims before agencies such as the Civil Rights Commission, or claims involving injuries which require pre-suit investigation and other related legal work, be billed at the rate of $190 per hour. Presently, these pre-suit matters and litigation not involving injuries are not billed. Where a defense by the insurer is furnished once self-insured limits are reached, further attorney fees are paid as cost of defense by the insurer, not the township. The following is an analysis of the responding bidders from the last time the township administration went out for bid, as well as further information on surrounding communities. Bodman PLC is $225 per hour. Foster Swift is $280 per hour. O'Reilly Rancilio is $10,000 at a one-time transition fee, $15,000 monthly retainer, and $175 to $225 per hour with primary contact between $200 per hour. The Kelly firm is $170 per hour. The summary of recent York, Dolan, and Tomlinson PC itemized billings. Here is a summary of the last 9 months. In May, those hours range.
Ms. Meltzer, we can probably just do the average, right?
Yeah, on average, yep. Range from May until September, an average 246.74 hours. Fee analysis if billed as an hourly rate. Present year-to-date monthly retainer fee, $27,900 divided by 241.9 average hours equals $113 per hour rate. We are hereby requesting an adjusted fee of $30,000 on the retainer from the present $27,900, which with litigation and pre-litigation involving claims against the township, example, injury claims, and claims such as, by example, civil rights violations, which may be or are proceeding before state or federal agencies, are billed at $190 per hour. Note, some of this work may have insurance coverage, therefore it is not an additional cost to the township. This results in an hourly rate that is substantially below any of the most recent submittals in the spring of 2024. A summary of areas where work is performed similar to what existed previously, resulting typically in a 2 or 3 page document, would be submitted monthly. In addition, you are aware of the substantial inflationary rates over the last few years. Moreover, this firm has not received a raise since before 2000. Here is the history of our fees. And let me go back. Due to the inflation since 2000, $30,000 then is worth the equivalent of $15,998 in today's dollars. Retainer allocation. It is proposed that the retainer allocation of fees among funds and departments within the township be as follows. Refuse $1,000, drainage $2,000, police $1,500, fire $1,500, heritage estate $2,000, water and sewer $4,000, and general $18,000. Please note that if the previous administration had succeeded in convincing the board to hire the Kelly firm at the rate of $170 per hour, if the same number of hours were billed as we have billed, the monthly cost to the township would be in excess of $39,000 per month. We believe, given the relative lack of experience and number of attorneys who would have been handling files, the figure would have been likely much higher. Note that Macomb Township, which does not have a police department, has a current yearly budget of $520,000 for 2024 to 25. See page 16, Macomb Township 2024-25 budget. Meanwhile, for 2024-25, the attorney fee budget for Sterling Heights was $1,020,000. See page 95, Sterling Heights General Fund Expenditure Summary and the financial statements. Clinton Township, $27,900 times 12 months equals $334,800 for the year. It has been both an honor and privilege to serve with the many generations of the township board and its employees over the years, together working for the best interests of all of the residents of the township. We respectfully request your consideration and approval of this matter. Should you have any questions or need any further information, please feel free to contact the undersigned or Ms. McGrail. We remain very truly yours, York Dolan and Tomlinson, John A. Dolan, and Linda M. McGrail. And I have
Okay, questions, comments from the board? Clerk Meltzer.
Okay, yeah, and I definitely don't have a problem with the ask of this, from our attorneys, but I do have a problem that it was put on so late. I did ask the attorneys if they'd be willing to hold off and put it on the agenda for the following week, but they said no. But they didn't really give me a good reason as to why they needed to have it done now. And generally, these types of conversations are had in a committee, and I think it's important that we do have that conversation in a committee to know that we can drill down into the details that are necessary given our financially structural deficit that I've been told, some department heads can't, are discouraged to, increase their staffing because of our structural deficit. And I'm not saying no to this because I do know that there are, important costs that have increased over time. But again, we have not vetted any of this information, and I think it's very normal and important to do so. And as I said, we have done this in the past, and so I don't know why this is not being done. Some of the criticisms too that I've had is by both my staff and others is there always seems to be a lot of typos in the areas, and there's a lot of work that the township does on behalf of that, both in my department and in some other departments that made that comment. So I'm not sure if we're getting a different work product, for the increase, and so I'd like to address that issue. I don't know too on these hours. The hours that were presented, are those from one attorney or both attorneys? Do we have an answer?
They're from both attorneys, and
So-
we submit on a monthly basis and have done for years, and you've had it at your disposal.
Yeah, we do.
Our itemized billing. As
Correct.
a matter of fact, as you may recall, Mr. Cannon insisted that we present a very detailed set of billing statements, which in the past had numbered up to 22 pages a month. So you've had
So
those
that's
at
not
your
what I'm referring to,
disposal.
Mr. Dolan. What I want, I don't want to go into the woods on this. What I'm asking is, you guys have submitted, these are your average hours, 246, but that's for 2 attorneys. And I'm saying, I know that you're given what you're paid each month, but you're arguing that this amount is a lot more than what it would be if we just had one attorney. I thought that there were 2 attorneys only because there was a transition with the new attorney, but it seems that this is the normal pattern that both attorneys are presented at the board meetings. In all of our history, we never had that. In addition, we have a lot of the times the attorneys are in a lot of the meetings. Both of you are there, so yes, I know those hours accumulate, but that is an additional cost that we never really approved. That is something that you've brought forward. And again, I thought it was as a result of you wanting to train a new attorney, but this seems to be an ongoing process, which again, maybe the board needs to look at that. Those are the kind of conversations I think are necessary, and that's why I think this should have gone to a committee. Those are things that we need to address. And talk about those. And the detailed billing, I think, is an important part of this. My understanding is, I think the supervisor made a unilateral decision to give a summary versus the detailed. I think that is important. I do know that takes more time, but I do think it's important. I don't look at all those details, only the ones that apply to my office, obviously, because I couldn't compare what is done by any other office. But for that reason, those are the questions. And again, I would like to delve deeper into the actual amount of hours that are actually worked by one attorney versus both attorneys, because that's not a practice we normally had approved. And I would like this to go to Budget Ways and Means for discussion and bring it back at the next meeting after the Budget Ways and Meeting, or after the Budget Ways and Means meeting, then bring this back to that next board meeting so that we have all the facts and the information, and that is going to be my motion. I make a motion to take this to Budget Ways and Means, and with the hope of having a discussion that will result in us bringing this back at the next board meeting after that Budget Ways and Means discussion.
Is there a second?
So that we can have some accountability. I find that really interesting that nobody wants to support more details.
Motion dies for lack of support.
Okay.
Further discussion. Trustee Matuzak.
I am generally satisfied with the work of our attorneys and counselors. I think they have laid out a strong case for a rate increase, which I think the fact that we haven't done one since 2022 is pretty, I think, absurd. So I would be in favor of this, but I would add a caveat. I would like to see this contract looked at in 3 years. I'm generally opposed to any of our contractors going on and on and on forever, with the occasional request to us. I think, and I understand that professional service contracts under our bidding process, we're not required to go out for bid, but I do think it's important to periodically review, both for our sake and for the sake of, in this case, our lawyers who haven't had a rate increase since 2022. I think it makes some sense. So I would actually move approval of this with the addition that 3 years from now, we will bid out this contract.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understood. Julie, can you say your motion one more time?
That we approve this proposal as presented for a rate increase for our current law firm, but that in 3 years from now, we will review this professional contract more formally and make another decision.
So I think
Just
we
a
need
question.
clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think we need clarification because the first part of your motion was that you would actually go out for bid in 3 years. The second time when you restated it was that you would review it in 3 years.
I prefer to go out for bid. That's just what I think. But I understand it's a professional contract and we don't generally bid them, we review them,
Yeah, so
whatever the appropriate language is.
I can tell you, having served on the pension board, one of the things we do is 4 different levels of service providers that we have servicing the board. Each one is looked at on a 4-year rotating basis. So it's a review, and at that time, the board has the opportunity to say, yes, we want to go out for bid for this service, or we're satisfied with the current rate and the current delivery of service, and we want to renew for another term.
So the appropriate language in my motion would be to review, in 3 years, to review this contract.
Okay.
That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
I just don't
And are you
necessarily know the words.
proposing a group or the entire board? You want this referred to a committee that reviews it, or do you want it to just, be placed on a board agenda?
I don't really have a preference.
Okay. Well, we can make that call at that time, or we can make it now.
3 years from now, we should decide that.
Okay.
But in June of whatever it is, 26, 27, 28?
28?
In June 28, we should have that discussion.
Okay. So the motion's been clarified.
Wait, but I have a
Okay.
question.
So questions on the motion?
Still have a question, yeah.
Okay. Trustee Wade?
Yes.
To the motion.
Oh,
We have a-
not to the motion.
I have a question
Okay.
for clarification, just as a
Clerk-
reminder.
Clerk
So
Melton,
that
to
will
the
be an
motion.
election year.
Yes.
That will be an election year, and I think that is a bad time to go over an attorney contract during that time. So I just want you to think about that impact before you finalize your motion. Generally, we don't do contracts that end in a year of an election because it is it tends to be you don't want any political influence on contracting going on. So that's generally why we don't do that. So if you want to amend it, maybe do it in 2 years to review the contract and go out to review, or you're saying to review the contract. I guess I don't understand that either, because we have the contract, you can review it anytime you want. So why do you need to review it? If you're talking about going out to bid in a period of time, then that seems to make sense. But but I'm not saying that you want to do that. I'm just saying, I don't know, in 3 years, that contract's not going to change in 3 years, right? So what does it mean to review it? I don't know the importance. At first, your topic made sense because you said go out to bid, but if you're changing your mind on that, that's fine. I just don't understand why we would need to review it. We have it.
Well, I guess I use the word review because under our purchasing policy, we don't bid out professional contracts. That's the way it says. We review them.
But we can. I mean, you can make a motion to change anything.
I'm going to leave it at review. I am sort of in favor of, I mean, I am taking into consideration the 3-year thing. So maybe we need to follow the precedent of the pension board, which is a 4-year review.
No, that's just because that's how many service providers we have. Like we have attorneys, auditors,
right,
and consultants. So that's how that 4-year came. So in other words, we're looking at pension contracts every year, actually. So it's just a different category of service along the way. So you can, I wouldn't necessarily, he was kind of trying to use that, Supervisor Gilliam was trying to use it as an example of what they did in the pension, but it doesn't really apply here per se. But again, we have a contract with the attorney. We already have it, it's locked in. It's a 5-year contract, I believe, that started in 22, was it? 22?
22.
So we have a 5-year agreement. And so I think that needs to be honored. And that 5 years was done after the next term. So that means, it doesn't conflict with the politics of it. So, I don't know, just a consideration.
So, point of clarification.
Yes.
Mr. Dolan?
Yes, sir.
Your current contract expires when?
And I believe it's 2028, is that right? I don't have the date on it. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Gilliam, our contract is subject to review at any time.
Can you speak into the microphone, Jeff?
Our contract, by virtue of your authority to make a motion, support, and pass a resolution, is subject to review at any time. Our contract currently has an expiration date on it. Before we went through what we did in 2022, we didn't have a contract we had a verbal contract only. Things worked fine. You can act to review our contract if you desire at an earlier date. All of the contracts that were executed give you the ability, I believe, on 60 or 90 days to terminate. So the idea of setting a specific review date, that is sort of a tickler and reminder to do it. But in terms of, does it substantively really hurt whether it's earlier or later? No, because you do have the authority going forward to control that.
I'm leaving my motion at 3 years. It coincides with the end of the contract. It is a tickler to remind us to do it because sometimes we let these contracts go too long.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Been moved and supported. Trustee Kress.
I just said through the chair, Mary, another professional service that we have is engineering, and that's an open-ended contract, right? I know they didn't have I remember watching before I was seated here that it was open-ended and there wasn't a termination date, and theoretically every 5 years we look at it. There still isn't as far as engineering services, there isn't a termination date.
So the original contract with AEW, it was supposed to have a 5-year termination. We did bring it back after 5 years. I believe their extension may have it in there now as 5 years. I didn't review it because I didn't know that was a good question. I can go look real quick if you'd like.
Okay. I just remember there wasn't a termination date. I remember there wasn't a termination date on their last contract, and then this one, the one that they're enjoying right now is like 5 years.
Yeah, I believe that was, but the original one, the 5 years, was implied in the board meeting. So when it didn't get in the contract, I just put a tickler in so that we would look at it.
And
if that was the formal.
And if we wanted to get rid of the engineer, we could do that at any time. So
all contracts usually have
so we could
some
review
kind
it at next month's meeting and and look at another contractor, fire, hire, per the terms of the contract.
Similar to when we went out with the attorney, we asked for requests for proposals. And then you review those proposals, and you don't necessarily go with the lowest price, but you look at, their quality, their experience, their history, and then the board makes a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and it's been supported. And so now I have a list, and first is trustee Wade, then trustee King, then clerk Meltzer. Trustee Wade.
Just a couple things. And Mr. Dolan touched on it because we had a conversation the other day about this. Anytime we felt this contract was bad, we can get out within 60 or 90 days, correct?
Right.
So
Correct.
I think that kind of safeguards us from feeling we're locked into something, or at any point think that, it's getting to be too expensive or whatever our reason is. The other thing is, I just had a couple questions on here. In regards to, say, like a civil rights violation, some of those are covered by insurance, our insurance carrier?
The civil rights aren't.
Okay.
Those are, we really haven't had too many. Mr. Gillingham asked a similar question on that, so I went back and looked. We had, probably over the last 4 or 5 years, we've had 3 of them. And the expenditures weren't very high. I went back and counted up our hours on it, and billing it at our billing rate at 190, they would have been, one of them I think was, it went over at about a 3-year period. It was around 7,000. The other was around 4,000. I've got one pending now that was filed in February that would be about $1,200. But in that one, the person who's the complainant, who was complaining of excessive force, we have a video from the booking, from the holding room at the store she was retained in on a shoplifting charge that completely shows that the allegations are unfounded. So I think that's going to resolve itself at a much lower cost than the other ones. The other ones involve claims coming out of Heritage Estates, which we're prone to claims there because of the age of the occupants and the fact that we have limitations on the amenities. So there's always struggles for people who want to get preferred room location or special carport placement and things like that. So anybody who sits on that committee would be somewhat familiar about those things going on.
And so in your summary here, you said that some federal agencies were covered under our insurance.
Well, what I meant to say was that we have some of our, the way the claims work now is a bodily injury claim, we pay under our self-insured retention or deductible the first $100,000 of both the indemnity, which means any settlement or trial verdict, and then also the costs of defense. Many years ago, we persuaded the carrier that we have to allow us to defend those because our billing rate has always been typically less than what the attorneys are who are appointed by the insurance company. And so basically the township had us defending those claims. Examples of those claims would be something like a trip and fall on a sidewalk, which we have a couple of those pending now. And then also something like an automobile accident. You know, a fire truck or police vehicle is involved in an accident and a lawsuit results. So whether we did that work or not, if we didn't do it, the insurance company would be appointing an attorney to do it, and you'd have exposure for attorney fees up until that $100,000 self-insured retention was met.
So if the insurance company is going to carry the cost of the attorney fees, would they contact you to do it and they would bill, you would bill them, or is it case by case?
That's a good question. What happens is once that 100,000 is met, then we continue on being paid by the insurance
Okay.
company. The insurance company takes over and pays us. You don't pay us, they do.
Okay. And my last question here is there a clear line where you say some stuff should go to Mr. Towner and some stuff go to you, or do you guys interact?
There's a clear line.
Okay.
There's a clear line. Mr. Towner he used to handle basically the labor, the building department cases, and the misdemeanor traffic that comes through the district court.
Right.
And the other things like assault and battery, things like that. I believe he's just handling the assault and battery and misdemeanor traffic and the building department. I think the labor that he used to do is now being done by Mr. Fournier.
Okay.
And the Schiffman Fournier law firm.
Okay.
So there's a clear delineation. Last time we did this and went out for bid and brought proposals back, they were separated. One was HR, 2 was prosecutions, 3 was assessing, and 4 was general counsel, as well as bankruptcies that are covered by Mr. Tomlinson that are billed separately, mostly through the treasurer's office that deals with bankruptcies to make sure that we are within compliance with federal law, but that we can get the information to the bankruptcy court. So those are the 4 different areas, and they're covered by different attorneys. So right now, the service is provided by Ms. McGrail and Mr. Dolan, our general counsel. And so Mr. Dolan, if I may, I have those 2 letters. I pulled them up. And so the 2 current sidewalk slip and falls are McMurray versus Clinton and Dehem versus Clinton. And we've got since December of 23, you would have about 9 hours of billable hours for a total of 1710.
Yeah, that would be a new added fee area because that would be pre-suit. And then the McMurray one, go ahead.
Okay, and then just to clarify further, because we're self-insured, that money would come from the township.
Right.
But it would be added on to the total cost of the lawsuit.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
And so once we get to the 100,000 cap, which arguably this would get us there quicker, if it's a suit that proceeded to trial and all of that, or if it didn't proceed to trial, we would be covering that. But because it doesn't go to trial, we're in a sense saving money by doing some of the pre-work to prevent it from going to trial. Is that correct?
Correct. We just had one that we got a pre-suit notification on a trip and fall that proceeds to the lawsuit. And after discussions with the attorney, he determined not to proceed. So we did avoid litigation in that case, as an example.
Okay, and the other one,
But to that point, wouldn't that have happened anyway, whether you got paid or not? Because you were still required to do the that would happen whether you were paid or not. I guess I don't see the savings, but, okay, sorry.
I think it's a matter of they're doing it now under the monthly retainer fee.
Right.
But they're disaggregating it because it's actually work that would be covered by the insurance company. Is that correct, Mr. Dolan?
To answer her question specifically, if we were not doing this work now, as soon as the claim came in, as soon as that notice of injury came in, the insurance company would likely be retaining an attorney, and you would be getting billed for the services of the attorney to the extent one was necessary to do that investigative work. So right now, as a matter of fact, I can show you, I've gotten requests from the adjuster as to where I am on a pre-suit case, and I've had to explain to them that currently we don't bill for those until there's actually a suit filed. So, in fact, there are billings that occur if you were leaving it up to the insurance company and they were selecting the attorney that currently we don't bill for. Now we want to bill for that because we know our billing rate is less than what it would be if you had the insurance company appoint the attorney, which is how we convinced the township in the first place to take over and do that work.
Okay. So the other memo provided by Mr. Dolan was regarding the civil rights claims. And so from 2020 to 2022, there was one civil rights case that totaled about 56.4 hours for a total of $10,716 over that whole length of time. And then a second case that was from November 13th through December 30th with 64 entries, 38.4 hours at a rate of 190 equals 7,296. So, I was making the point of clarification on the questions by Trustee Wade. Trustee Raid, you still have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I guess what I'm trying to decipher here is, I know sometimes, and I'll use the police department, sometimes if something went to federal court, Peacock would jump in.
Right.
Correct.
What makes him jump in, or how does that?
So Trustee Wade,
Yeah.
you're kind of facing this way, but the mic is actually behind you.
All right.
So,
The,
there you go.
and I'll use the police department as an example. There'd be a federal lawsuit, and at some point, it would get kicked over to Pete Peacock.
Right.
What triggers that?
The police cases that are filed in federal court, he handles.
So you wouldn't handle anything in federal court?
We've handled some police cases that have been in circuit court. He's handling the ones that are in federal court
Okay.
mostly. And otherwise, as assigned. So you can select whomever you want on those cases.
Right. Okay,
Okay. All set?
I'm set.
Okay. Trustee King.
Thank you. I just want to continue on. I think Trustee Wade brought up a good point. I think that our attorneys are working in good faith based around the fact that they have an open-ended, hey, this can end at any moment in time by your review. You know, this is something that they have pointed out in conversation with us and in their contract. So I think that's important to be able to point out to everyone. Second piece is that I think I would like us just to, I think this has uncovered a bit of our procurement process, and there's a bit of a gap in how we either think about our professional services and how we procure them, and probably the language and the methodology we go about moving forward to make sure that we have those ticklers in place to make sure that we're regularly reviewing them and bringing them to bid or just bringing them to review. So maybe that's something I think that we can bring to Budget Ways and Means, that process of procurement, and at least that language, so we have something that might be universal across our procurement, and maybe something we bring up at a separate meeting to cure that gap, because I think that's what's been exercised here at this moment in time, is a willingness by this board to be able to review things on a more regular basis, a consistent basis across our professional services. So I'm in favor of Julie's motion. Obviously, I second it, and I would like to try to move forward with that at this time.
Clerk Meltzer.
Thank you. I do disagree, and I just want it on the record for the two previous speakers that said that having a 60-day opportunity to cancel a contract is what secures accountability. It doesn't. We do that with all contracts. You know, we always have a way to get out of contracts. We have to in case things change, right? So there's nothing significant, I think, about that. What is significant is last year, and I don't have all the information because, again, I tried to contact our finance director today. I was unsuccessful in doing so. She was in meetings all day, and then I was busy this afternoon because I'm doing ballots, and so I need more time to really make an educated decision on how this is accountable, right? So we talk about transparency, we talk about responsibility, accountability in government, and when we have a contract that is put on last minute for an agenda item and not the opportunity to vet in a committee, which is generally how we manage any contracts, I find that the opposite of accountability, transparency, and efficiencies. But I did get one, just real quick, I got a response from her late, just as the board meeting was starting, and that she said last year, it was $84,000 in lawsuits the attorneys received from Broadspire. So that was an additional amount from the $325,000 they receive a year for us. So on average, we pay our attorneys a minimum of $1,000 per day. So to say that we are not, we don't have to compare this to any other community. We spend a lot of money. Now, that said, that may be the cost. I think they're great attorneys. I'm not criticizing that. They're not great attorneys, that they're accountable in that they are available whenever I need them. Jack Dolan's been great with that. Linda, I've not had as much experience with, but she has been very accountable too in terms of responding to me when I call her. That's not what this is about. This is about taking care of the taxpayers' dollars and making sure we've had the opportunity to truly vet the cost that the taxpayer is going to be paying. And that's why I object to this particular evening. It's not necessarily the content, although I don't really have all the answers to the content. And so therefore, I will be voting no on this motion. Again, I feel strongly about it. Again, it's nothing personal. It's just I have a responsibility and a due diligence to my constituency, and I think anytime we look at a contract, we better take it and vet it. And again, that doesn't mean we can't still have this conversation. I'm not saying no to that. We can have this type of conversation here, but we also need to have it in committee so that then we have time to follow up with what do we need to gather to help us make a decision. Right now, you really don't have the answers, but you're going to make a decision. Where if you weren't to committee, you'd have the opportunity to look up those answers and then be prepared when you come to the board. So that's my only reason. That's all I have left to say. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion from the board.
I just want to say one.
Trustee Wade.
I'm not in favor of the motion that's on the floor as it is. I am in favor of giving them a raise. I think they deserve it. My thing is, take their law firm out of the equation here. The amount of money we're paying out, you could not get a comparable law firm. That's just the reality of it. I 100% disagree with you on that.
Okay.
100% disagree.
We'll agree to disagree.
Because go around and look and see what other communities are paying. Look at, I'll use Chippewa Valley Schools, the amount of money they pay for an attorney. It's more than we do.
I don't work for Chippewa Valley Schools.
The volume of work that we have is very justified for that, wanting that increase, I believe. And if you took that increased salary and you went out, you're not going to get a law firm to do the work that they do. That's my opinion.
Okay. Members of the public. Leonella. I think I said that correctly this time.
Okay.
All right.
Hi. Thanks for taking my question. No offense. I just would like to know why there's two attorneys here as well. I mean, if there's a reason for it, that's great, but I know there used to be only one. So I kind of agree with Clerk Metzler on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Does she not get an answer? I mean, this isn't public comment section. She's asking a
Right.
question.
So this is her opportunity to say, well, on her question is, why do we have two?
Yeah.
I can't say that. Both of them
they're right
happen to
there.
be here right now. I can tell you that if both of them are here and it's covered under the retainer, it's not costing us more. And then secondly, I would suggest that Mr. Dolan's been around forever, working for the township. And
Forever and a day.
predates me, of course, here at the township. But Ms. McGrail has not been part of the Attorney General Counsel contract, and so the more she's here, the better off I think it is. But it's covered under the retainer. It's not an hourly billed rate. So,
But to that point, they use those hours to show that they are not, that they use so many hours more than another firm. And I'm saying that you can't use those hours when there's two of them here. We only need one attorney. I get it. And I mentioned the fact that, Ms. McGrail needs time to get, it takes a long time to learn the process and so on. But you can't use those double hours to show that you work, that you should be paid more. So those are the kinds of things that I'm saying, that I think are disingenuous, and I would like that not, again, to be addressed.
So it's kind of similar to like the overtime hours and the
not
election
a
time?
free-for-all. This is not a
No,
free-for-all.
not at all. No. It is not like that at all.
Sorry, Paul. No, I'm sorry.
I'll recognize you, Trustee King.
And I'll answer that question.
Trustee, is it similar to what the argument was like for like your team members who work on your clerk team when they work overtime hours during an election? Is it similar to that?
So overtime hours that are done during an election are mandatory. This is one of the things the township has to do is execute elections. We're required by state law to manage that. It takes a lot of people to make that happen, so there are overtime. That's not the same as what we're talking about with a contract. These are temps. These are people that come and go. I don't see the analogy to what you're trying to
No, it seemed
say,
like you were
but-
making a connect. It seemed like a connection to me that it seemed as if like the hours that were being worked during like the overtime, component during the election time period, it seemed as if at the time that you were making the argument that, hey, these folks are working these additional hours and it needs to be, covered. It seems like you don't want to, it seems like there's an issue with these hours that are being covered by the retainer.
No, not at all. However, you are the one that voted no to pay my staff, so I find that interesting. You'll be the attorney, but you won't pay the little person, the single mom.
The little person?
The single mom.
Are you trying to say, why are we trying to attack single moms? Why are you mentioning
Because
this?
that's
As
who
if-
my deputy is,
No,
so.
it was just your process and how you were going about it was
I'm
incorrect.
ending this tangent because I think it's a little bit off topic here. We're talking about the attorney's contract. So my thought on this is we currently have a contract. It's a 5-year contract. It expires in '28. The attorneys, the general counsel was paid $30,000 back in
2014.
back in 2000 to 2006. Excuse me. And then, I'm sorry, hourly rate from 2000 to 2006 with average billing of $33,500 per month. From March of 2006 to 2014, it was $30,000 a month, and from 14 to 22, it was $29,700 per month. And then there was a snafu in the last contract. The one that we're currently in is $27,900. They're looking for a rate increase. I think the rate increase that's being offered is fair, and I think that the extra work, although I'm a little bit concerned, because this is work that is currently covered under the retainer. It is no longer going to be covered under the retainer. It's going to be billed separately. And so that is why I think Trustee Matuzik's motion makes a lot of sense, because what it says is we are going to review it at that time, close to its expiration. And it's a mandatory review. And quite frankly, I believe the purchasing policy already has that language in it, so I don't see the motion as a substantial change, but I think it's a necessary component of saying, hey, we are raising the rate of compensation, but it's going to be reviewed again in a systematic fashion, and that is part of the approval. So I think we accomplish what people brought this to the board for, which is to make sure that there's fair compensation. And I believe it covers us in the sense that we have to review it at that time of expiration. So I'll be
Mr.
supporting the
Zuber, yeah,
motion.
I'm not
So-
belaboring it. I just want to let you know the
so, Ms.
contract
Meltzer?
ends in 3/27. So just so you know, so it will be in, that is a 3-year window. So
Okay.
that's from that one term. So I just wanted to let you know, because you guys were saying you didn't know when the contract ended. It doesn't end in 28, it ends in 3/27, along with the other contracts, legal contracts that we also approved previously.
Okay. Friendly amendment
And is that amendment going to be?
prior to the expiration?
Prior to the expiration.
Okay, who was the second? Trustee King, are you amenable to that as a friendly amendment?
I'm amenable.
All right, let me, prior to expiration?
Prior to expiration.
Instead of 3-year prior to expiration.
Review prior to expiration, which we will do. So does that, so are you, it's everything that's already mentioned, so that would be to modify the fee agreement to increase the monthly retainer from the present $27,900 to $30,000 per month, and that all matters involving claims against the town should be billed at the rate of $190 per hour. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes, it's laid out in the letter.
Well, I'm going off of what my what I compile. I just want to make sure we're good. And then also sometime prior to expiration date, it's reviewed by the board,
Okay.
which is already part of it. Okay.
All right, so everyone's clear on the motion? We're all good? Roll call.
Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Trustee Wade.
No.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam.
Yes.
Treasurer Aiello.
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, no. Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. Public comment. Officer? Any slips put in?
Can I do,
Okay.
can I do a PSA real quick?
For the purposes of a public service announcement, Trustee Wade.
Yes. Real quick, I just wanted to, I have a message, but I wanted to really commend the fire department, the police department, and Public Works for the extraordinary job they did last week. And I was up north, and I am glad to say my Nixle messages went off without a hitch. And my purpose of this message is, if you have not signed up for Nixle, please do so. They really put out some great information of neighborhoods to avoid, and I really think it's critical that all of our residents try to sign up for that. So
And how do people sign up for it?
888-777 to your text message, and then type in your zip code, and you're good to go. I've showed some people, and they've done it in under a minute. So please sign up for it.
Okay. And Trustee Wade, I'll echo that because Chief Gallagher was out there and in constant communication with my office, and then I was in communication with the communications department that got those messages out. So as he brought them forward, we got them to communications, and the message went out, and I think that was helpful. So
It worked well.
yep, thank you. All right. So, yeah, I mean, okay. Okay, Ms. Strong,
Yeah, hi.
3 minutes?
I have 3 minutes, right? Let me
Correct.
Sorry, it's just working. I had to go to the library to print this in. I don't know how to mess with the printer. 3 minutes. I give
You don't have to, are you trying to
Okay, I got you.
record 3 minutes? We manage that up here. You don't have to worry about that. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Sure.
Sure.
Louise, I got you.
I got 3 minutes, then give me 3 minutes
Oh, she
and
don't trust our
38
timer.
seconds.
That's
Shoot,
fine.
I did 3 hours, so forget it. Just let me know. I don't know the stuff.
Name and address for the record,
I
ma'am.
have a copy, actually, can I pass to you guys? I only got 30 cents in my wallet, so I only need this. But they gave me one crazy copy because this one's dark. So I only have 4 copies. You guys can pass.
I'll pass them.
Pass it.
Sure. Pass this.
So timer starts now? Anyway, you guys probably all know me. And I wrote that letter or note May 7th to Chief Gallagher. I haven't heard a thing. And that note was referred to something I talked to him almost 2 months prior than that. So to this date, I think about 3 months or 2 weeks, I have not heard a thing. Because he canceled our appointment at 10 o'clock, March 17th, abruptly when I was on my way for the appointment. And so I called him back. He said, yeah, we'll just reschedule. I said, sure, to discuss about a supervisor that treated me badly at Engine 3. This incident happened February 21st, so 4 months ago. And I thought he should be aware of it. And we never had a chance to discuss that. So I was so upset, I was literally crying. Crossed the street 2 minutes later, it actually took 1 minute to the cemetery, to Chief Passaway's bench. I just wanted to borrow a butter knife to get the wreath out. It was partially frozen a little bit. And this supervisor said, we don't have knife for you to borrow, you need to leave. Really hastily. I'm like, what the heck? And before I turned around, he was threatening to call police on me. I said, I don't think the police is gonna waste their resource on this. I said, I'm not handicapped, I just didn't turn. I said, you already talked to people this way? Did you get up from wrong side of bed? And I called him F-bomb. You know, I thought he deserved it. He probably said yes, written all over my forehead. That surprised me as a supervisor. And there were 2 other firefighters was at witness. They just gone because they were afraid of him. So Mr. Shannon knew about that incident. Mr. Aiello knew about it. And I just talked to Mr. Wade this afternoon. I said, so far I still have not get a chance to meet Mr. Gallagher. He canceled the appointment. I called back. He's supposed to call me, reschedule it on after March 17th. 2 weeks passed, 3 weeks passed, so I left him one message with the Secretary Linda. She transmitted to his voicemail. I left him voicemail. 2 weeks later, nothing. So I left a message again to Linda's voicemail because I couldn't be even transferred to his voicemail. So I said, hey, Linda, you know this incident, we talked about this. By then it was about nearly 2 months, nothing. So I said, okay, let me just go there in person. I wrote that note in the parking lot. Gave to one of the fire guy was training himself, pulling about 1,000 pounds, whatever the weight training. And I said, could you drop this off at his desk? And he said yes. But he was on vacation that week. I figured the following week would call me. That's May 7th. So he should be back May 14th, right? Nothing. And today is June 23rd.
Ms. Strong, 3 minutes are up.
Okay, so I don't know how long.
Give us your name and address for the record.
Louise Strong.
And address?
17429 Contested Drive.
Okay.
And for a resident live here for more than 3 decades, this are like, I can say I'm lifetime resident. That's our first house.
You'll hear back from my office.
I hope so.
Okay.
But also, I told the same day the incident happened February 21st, I told Amy Gogo to schedule an appointment with you. She was typing. I figured she did it. Never heard from you. I don't think she did it. She just pretend typing.
I've had conversations with some of my colleagues.
I just don't know why.
Haven't gotten to this yet.
Everybody dropped the ball on me. For what? You know?
Ms. Strong, I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Gilliland, just for clarification too, the previous speaker did speak with my office, and I did explain to her. And one thing I just want to clarify, our police and fire always take care of requests by the residents. And one thing that people cannot do at the fire department is pop in, because even if there is available people there that are not on call, at any second they could be on call. And if it's an emergency, of course, our fire department is going to help anybody that knocks on their door. But for a butter knife, they can't do that. They can't sit and talk to residents. They cannot do things like that. And that was explained. And it is not a dig against that resident. It's that if there had been an emergency call, now they're distracted and it's less time they can get to somebody that's in an emergency state. Asking for a butter knife is not an emergency. And I just want to defend our police and our fire on this matter, and I think they've always treated our residents with respect, and I just want that to be clarified, 100%.
Thank you, Ms. Meltzer. Motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Treasurer Aiello, supported by?
Second.
Supported by Trustee Matuzak. Roll call, please.
Trustee Aiello. I'm sorry, Treasurer Aiello, sorry.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Wade?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes, motion passes.